Welcome. In this session, we're going to talk about how to fix a very common problem in writing, and many times writers don't even realize they have a problem. The problem is that in academics, passive voice is not acceptable, only active voice is. That does not mean that there is not a place for passive voice, because there is. Otherwise, there wouldn't be these words that are passive. So what do you do to find passive verbs? Okay, the way to find passive verbs is to look for forms of the verb be, such as be, been, was, or were. Also look for the verbs is and are, followed by a participle ending in ed, ing, or en, or some other form of participle. Let's look at some examples. The first one here is the Constitution needs to be amended. Okay, what we have here is a passive sentence and we want to make it active. So if we flip this around and put the subject before the verb instead of putting the object before the verb, we'll have an active voice. So we can put the people need to amend the Constitution. In other words, we've inserted the people because we didn't say who was doing the amending before. And the people are the subject and the Constitution is the object. And so where before we didn't have a subject, it kind of left you in suspense, and that's what I said earlier. That's the place for passives. We're clarifying that, so it's much clearer in active voice than it is in passive voice. Let's look at another example. Exams will be graded by next Wednesday. Okay, that's a passive sentence. And if we flip this around and put in I will grade the exams by next Wednesday, that clarifies it, because before it didn't say who was doing the grading, but now it does. So we put the subject in, followed by the object, the exams. Okay, where the exams came first before, and we didn't have a subject. So active helps clarify and make it crisp and clear what you're talking about. Another example, the car has been wrecked by the accident. Okay, this is a passive verb. And again, if we turn this around, the accident wrecked the car. That's more direct, and it says who did what to who. The accident wrecked the car. In this case, we have it flipped around and we're waiting to see how the car was wrecked by the accident. Okay, let's look at another example. The mouse was eaten by the cat. That's a passive. We've got a form of be here. Was is a form of be. We can flip that around and say the cat ate the mouse. Okay, that's very direct. We know who the subject is and what the object was. The cat ate mouse. Subject, verb, object. Very clear. Okay, let's look at another one. Mistakes were found in the draft. Okay, again, we can flip that around and say Joe found mistakes in the draft. Now we know who is doing something to what. Joe found mistakes in the draft. And here we don't know who found the mistakes in the draft. So it really helps clarify your sentence. Another example is Susan is flying, and here we're talking about a participle, which we mentioned up here. Flying ends in ing, so look for words ending in ing, ed, or en, or n. Susan is flying to Phoenix. That's a passive. And if we want an active sentence instead, we just substitute Susan flew to Phoenix. Notice in this case we didn't have to flip the subject and the object because they were already in the right place. We just had to get rid of a passive form with an active form, and that corrected our sentence. Here's another one. Ron and Betty are taking a cruise. Okay, we know who the subject is and we know what the object is, which is the cruise. But it's in a passive form. So to change it to an active form, Ron and Betty took a cruise. Okay, so we know Ron and Betty are the subject and the cruise is the object, and the action is they took it. So I hope what you'll take out of this is that you'll start to maybe highlight your work, write it out like you ordinarily would, and look for things that have these forms of be in it, and then try to fix it by flipping them around or replacing it with an active form of the verb. And your writing will be so much better for it, and you'll have a leg up on the competition. And that's the reason why I want you to look for these. Too many people don't even bother to look. And you'll never learn how to fix a passive voice problem without looking and practicing. So that's it, and I'll talk to you soon.